This is Dr. David Allen coming to you on the television program, People, Helping People. We just come through two very challenging hurricanes, Irma and Maria. And one Friday morning I went out as Irma was threatening to visit the New Providence Community Center, and I met my friend, the director, Uriel Adderly, there. And of course, the cots were all laid out and the dignitaries were there. And I said, Uriel, you got your hands full. And yes, New Providence Community Center brought in a number of people, evacuees from the southern islands. Ms. Adderly, how did this happen?
Well, when the impending disaster was upon us, well, I knew as a director for the center that I had to mobilize and bring the center up to readiness. But at that point, my concern or my focus was on the local residents here in New Providence. And so when we start the formation of the hurricane shelter, my focus was, on Thursday afternoon, we was anticipating that we'll have movements based on the movement of the storm, persons coming in, and then we was hoping by Saturday evening, it would all be over, the storm passed, and persons moved back to their home. So I was upset with the pastoral team, and we was going over our strategy for the week because we wanted to determine the amount of days that would be allotted to the hurricane, and then when we could resume back to normal business. So we were anticipating by Sunday, no later than Monday, that we would kick the center back into normal operating hours. But to my surprise, as I left the pastoral meeting and I moved down to the auditorium, I made my way to the front desk just to check on things. I saw a number of representatives from NEMA and social services. They were touring the facility. But at that point, I was a little reluctant when I saw them, and I hey, wait a minute, who are these people? And I was attempting to run back in the opposite direction. And then my employee at the desk said, no, Mr. Adderly, come here. And she called me. And then I approached NEMA people. And as I approached them, well, they introduced themselves. They introduced that they were from social service, they were from NEMA, and they was anticipating evacuating persons from the southern islands of the Bahamas. And they were moving them to New Providence. But at that point, I'm standing there in shock because I'm wait a minute, because we didn't anticipate this. We were looking at just this little short period. So I spoke to them, and then several minutes later, I then dashed off upstairs back to the pastoral meeting where the pastoral team was still meeting. And I expressed the concerns that was, the discussion I had with the NEMA persons. And then all of us standing there in a daze, where are we going with this? And then I dashed back downstairs and we started discussion. And they said they were looking for a venue to move the persons and that they were interested in our facility. Well, then I knew that the dynamic there was going to change for us. Because at this point, up to that stage, I only had planned for 3 days supplies for hurricane. The whole logistic was based on a 3-day planning. Come Sunday, come Monday, they're out of our building. But then I realized that this would present a different level of challenge for us.
In fact, I called you, I think it was Thursday, and I said, Uriel, you got a lot of people there. How's your food going? And you said, Doc, I'm down. I need hot dog rolls, and I need Venus sausages. So I rushed across to Super Value. They had a little bit of hot dog rolls left, and a little bit, I bought everything I could get, and I went down there. When I got there, I saw the place full, and I met all the cabinet. It was the Prime Minister and his cabinet and stuff like that. And you were up to the wazoo, and I looked at you, and I said, Lord, help Uriel, because he's got a massive challenge. So at that point, you didn't know if you'd have enough food to last.
No, I knew I didn't have enough food.
You knew?
I knew, because number one, with the evacuees moving in, my date was moved up rather than putting people in the facility for Thursday evening, they started arriving on Wednesday.
Wow.
So I was one day up. Right. So rather than the plan that I had originally set, that takes me from Thursday to Sunday, which was my original plan. Now I have Wednesday. I've moved the calendar and moved up on me.
Were you scared?
I was nervous. I went home. I remember laying down in the bed. I was staring up in space, and everything was running around in my head. Because my anticipation was not just the hurricane hitting the southern part of the Bahamas, but coming into New Providence. Because if it hit the southern part, and then it did any devastation here in Nassau, let's say we lock in the building for 2 or 3 days, because I'm already three days worth of food, and then I'm anticipating if the hurricane moved to us here in New Providence, I'm holding these persons, and then 3 days worth of supply. I knew that I was going to be on 3 days. Wow. So we needed supplies. And that's when I got on the phone and I started calling the Pastor Matthew. And I started saying, hey, we need supplies. Because, my plan was to go to NEMA, ask for assistance, and they brought me some assistance a little earlier. But then I realized, even if I went to them, it was not coming with the speed that I needed.
Right.
So I just tell him to put the word out, because we need to get supplies in the building.
I actually, when I came there Friday morning, I sensed the urgency of the matter. I don't know if you realize that. And I said, I better keep close. And I'd call you every day and say, Chief, how you doing?
You did.
And then you said you're feeding morning, lunchtime, and dinner, right?
Yes.
And you all had to be up at 3 in the morning to cook.
Yes.
And then you said you needed some more cooks too.
I needed more cooks.
So I said, now where we can get cooks? And so then I said, well, anybody from the Southern Islands could cook? Did you find any cooks among them?
They did. In fact, all of the cooking came from them.
Oh, really?
I ended up with 4 cooks. And there was a lady there named Sarah Strawn. She's from Salina Point. But she was one of the first ones initially that stepped up and said, look here, I would be the cook.
Wow.
And she was up every morning between 4 to 5 o'clock to cook breakfast. But I would get up much earlier because I would have to supply the kitchen, like to provide them with all of open the storage area that we had and provide them. But she was up religiously every morning, 5 o'clock. And that was remarkable. I mean, it was them who really, they ran the kitchen. I had social services, Miss Evans from social services, who came in on a few occasions, and she cooked. She literally cooked. Because at one point we had the defense force officer, he came in to cook. Because there was a lot going on. Because
I sensed that.
We kept running out of food.
And I kept saying, these people could cook, man. Island people could cook, and they know how to cook with little. And stuff was running short, right?
Yes.
So when I came back Sunday, I came back Friday. Now Nassau people started lining up at the door. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And this lady came with her 4 little children.
You're right. You was there.
And I was saying, man, you got to let them in. Because I know there's a little space left upstairs.
Right.
But boy, NEMA put their foot down, right?
No, NEMA at that point was a little reluctant in us allowing anybody else in the building. But
see, Nassau people know that New Providence Community Center is a great shelter.
They
so
know.
when a hurricane's traveling, they start walking from Kemp Road down. So when I saw this lady, she was dressed right up, and her kids looked so beautiful, and I saw the big bosses trying to send them away. I tried to slip them behind them, but boy, they caught me too. They said, no, Doc, they can't come. I said, look, man, I mean, she's here.
Right.
And the hurricane's coming, But anyway, you had your hands full. How did you manage all these bosses,
Well, it was a little delicate because,
because one of your staff got hot. And I had to say, sister, a hurricane is one thing, but, let's don't make it worse. But she was getting hot, man.
Yeah, because, the idea of turning people back.
She didn't like that. She kept saying, this is a church, it's a ministry. We don't turn people away.
Right.
And the guys were saying, no, this is a NEMA operation now.
Right.
Yeah.
Because see, you remember during Hurricane Matthew, we pretty much run the center ourselves. Well, we have representatives. Well, you have the defense force and the police. that comes there primarily for security reason. But on the other side of the coin, you had the NEMA representative, but we only had one NEMA representative who was just there sort of observing us.
You're such a peaceful man. When that lady, your staff member, was getting so hot, I noticed you kind of went back and left me with her. Right. And I was trying to say, sister, you know, I understand. You're right. You're right. For the church, they should come.
Right.
But you know, we now respect authorities because they have to be in charge.
That's it.
And when you have a disaster, you have to have order. If you don't have order,
that's it.
And so even though I was trying to sneak,
that's it.
I was watching her lose it, and I was trying to sneak the women, the children behind me,
that's it.
so the officers or her wouldn't see it.
That's
and
it.
I was trying to cool her down.
Yeah.
But the officers still found out.
That's
but you had to now put your boundaries down because you had your place full.
Like you say, it was a delicate issue because you have to work with social services, you have to work with the Defense Force, with NEMA, and it's a delicate balance because as the manager of the center, I have certain responsibility, and they will consult with me in making any major decision.
Uriel, what about that dilemma of your staff was saying, no, this is ministry, and the other person was saying, no, this is hurricane disaster.
Okay.
What is the difference?
No, I think what we end up resolving a little bit of it with the NEMA and social service representative, because I went to them and, you know, I sort of reasoned with them saying that you know, we're a hurricane shelter. And if someone come all the way from a certain point in the New Providence and they come to the shelter, I mean, we still have to be, it's a delicate issue. You can't just take people and young children and say, okay, go back on the street or go find some place. So, you know, with a little bit of a discussion going back and forth, they allow me to accept a few families there. But they are delimited because of the liability issue. They're concerned because these were being evacuees from the Southern Island under the auspices of the government, and they were overprotective to some extent.
Right. And the other thing, Ms. Adderly, they spoke of was that at that point, they didn't know whether Irma would hit Nassau.
That's it.
And if it hit Nassau, the upstairs of MPCC was supposed to be for sick people.
Right.
So if they had to take people out of the hospital, they told me that's where they were getting ready to get the police to transport.
Right.
Because Irma was heavy.
Yes.
So yeah, the hospital was going to be hit hard too.
Right.
And they said very, very sick people had to be housed in a safe place. So they had your upstairs room, which is like a armed bastion.
That's it.
That was reserved for sick people, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Because what they're saying too is as people move into the shelter, they may have to make a decision to move the critically ill persons, or the persons that the, you know, from the various centers around the country, and bring them into that central location. Right. So they would, you know, they would asking me to reserve that space for that.
We're going to take a break and be right back.